And here we go. Now to see how the bandwidth is making its way around the racetrack. Will it complete the final lap in enough time to ensure the live stream starts at the proper time? Well, people are showing up in the chat. There we go. Now it's working. NASTRAC. Is that it? NASCAR.
Oh my
NASTRAC on the NASDAQ.
I'm a NASTRAC. Forgot what it was called.
Shall you do the intro?
Yes.
Or do you want me to do it?
You can do it this time.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
I haven't done it in a while. Welcome back to the Tailosive Talks podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Today I have very special guest star, my wife, Louise Erickson. You are very special. I am special to have even met you, let alone get to spend the rest of my life with you. It's a pleasure, all mine. Thank you all for joining us today. We've got a plethora of topics to cover.
Do we actually? We came with nothing today, so you guys just ask questions.
We are super ready. But how was work today? Was work good?
It was good. Yeah, it went by pretty fast.
Did you take any mid-break walks? Is that what you do? What do you do during breaks at work?
So normally I have a desk job, so I sit pretty much all day, just like Drew. And I get 2 10-minute breaks and then a 30-minute lunch. So I go around the parking lot, and there's this little forest on the other side of the fence. So sometimes I get to see like birds or critters. But
That's
it's just
cool.
nice to walk around there and get some sunshine.
Was it hot today? It got pretty
Yeah,
up
it's
there.
Actually over 100 degrees right now.
Oof. Fahrenheit. Don't worry. It's not that hot.
No, it's actually 100 degrees Celsius.
That would be bad.
Yeah.
Oof. I don't want that to happen. But you had an interesting story. I actually made a post about it on Twitter a little earlier because it was the cutest thing I've ever seen. You had found a critter stuck in the fence. Tell us about this story.
So I was taking my lunch, and it was really early. It was like 7:45 in the morning because I start work at 5. And I was just walking my normal route, which is just up and down this little road by the parking lot. And there's this fence there, like a chain link fence. And I could hear some howling. So I kind of just started walking towards it. And I saw this fox running around back and forth. And he or she looked really worried. I can't tell the gender. And so I kept walking towards that sound and to see what was going on. And then I realized there was a baby fox stuck in the fence. Like his head was poked through the hole. And I was just thinking, like, this is one of those turtle straw moments that I had to like help this little guy. So basically I walked up to him and I tried to use my best mother voice. I was like, are you okay, little guy? I don't remember exactly what I said.
You have a very sweet voice.
Oh, thank you.
Listening to the recording was cute. It was very cute to watch.
Yeah, so I just walked up to him and I was going to try to like push his head through, but foxes are kind of angry. Well, I guess
they might be scared.
Yeah, I think he was just really scared.
Yeah.
And if you want to see the video, it's on Drew's Twitter somewhere.
I think it's on Twitter and Instagram on Talks. So, yeah, it's out there somewhere if you want to watch it.
I was going to push his head through, but he would not let me near him. So,
did he roar or?
He like nipped? Like, I don't know. Snarled at me.
This is the term.
Yeah, so
I thought he would like roar like a T-Rex.
I basically just like wiggled the fence, and then eventually he just like wiggled his way out. And I was like, run free, little guy.
Yeah, that was so cute.
Yeah, that was honestly, it was such a small, insignificant moment, but it meant so much to me. It was like the coolest thing that I've ever experienced, and I got to help an animal, which was cool.
What did the fox say?
Ding, 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 ding.
And it was right after we'd watched that one movie. What was that movie called?
Yeah, we watched Fantastic Mr. Fox.
That's what it was.
And in that movie, the plot was the fox was really mischievous and was like against humans. And this time it was the humans helping the fox. So it's kind of like...
They were anthropomorphic. Is that what it's called?
Anthropomorphic?
They acted human, even though they were animals.
Yeah.
Stop motion movie. It was on this weird... Roku boxes have their own channel.
Did we watch it on Roku?
Yeah, that was the Roku channel. So if you have a Roku box or a Roku TV, that's what we have. We're using it right now. There's like a specific channel. Weren't there ads though?
Yeah,
I think
every
there
like 20 minutes there was an ad.
Yeah.
But actually, I guess we haven't talked about this. We got rid of our Netflix subscription.
We have. Yeah,
and
let's
our
talk about
Hulu
that.
subscription. Basically, because I'm crazy about budgeting.
Louise
just
is big
goes
into
along with it.
budgeting,
Yeah.
and I love you, so I'll go along with it.
Yeah, we were spending around like $100 on subscriptions each month. And I just thought that was crazy. It's like we don't need to have 5 different ways to watch movies when, first of all, the Roku thing, that's free. And then we also
They don't have much, though.
Yeah. But then there's Prime, and then there's also Vudu, which is free as far as I know.
Which we've canceled Prime, but
Yes.
but it's an annual subscription, so Prime runs out January 2020. So maybe by then we'll change your mind and get you back around.
Drew was really trying to convince me to get Netflix again.
For Black Mirror.
Yeah, Black Mirror came out. It's only 3 episodes, though.
Yeah, but
And I watched
like
the
Black
first
Mirror,
one.
and
It wasn't that good.
Well, I want to know it's not good. And
I'm telling you.
Formulate my
You
own
don't believe me?
opinion. What's a show or a movie you like a lot?
Snakes on a Plane.
Or that you haven't seen yet? That you're like looking forward to?
The original Aladdin.
Well, you've seen that.
No, I haven't.
Oh, the original?
Yeah.
You've never seen the original?
I know what happens.
What if I just told you it was terrible?
Okay.
This is a bad
Well,
example.
good.
What if we just stopped watching Parks and Rec and I just said, no, it's bad. You don't need to watch the rest
we
of
tried watching it before, and I didn't think it was that funny.
Parks and Rec is something you have to keep going with.
Yeah.
You have to
I
stay on
like
top
it
of
better
it.
now.
Yeah.
The second time around.
I think if you stick with it, it's a lot more enjoyable. But yeah, Stranger Things is coming out. I didn't like the second season, but I was interested in the third season. So I'm debating if we can just do a month free trial to just watch Black Mirror and Stranger Things, because I do admit, like, you know, we paid the monthly subscription for Netflix, which appeared to be getting more expensive every month.
Yeah, it started
was
off
slowly-
at like $8.99, and then suddenly
felt like
we were
it.
paying $15.99.
And suddenly it was like, now your subscription's $15.99. We were like, wait a minute. Since
yeah.
when?
First
Or
of
it
all.
was 14 or something like that. It was slowly getting more expensive, and I admit that we weren't watching it that much. And I don't think it's because we're not enlightened or anything. It's just we're both so busy. We don't spend a lot of free time just watching movies anymore.
Actually, I beg to differ.
Why?
I feel like we had the opposite problem. We were watching way too much TV. We were constantly watching movies every night, which I'm not against, but like we just stopped going out and like taking hikes and doing like activities, I guess.
Well, we haven't done it a ton. It's when it's 100 degrees outside. It's hard to walk
I mean,
around
we went
outside.
swimming. That's pretty good.
We went swimming. That was good.
And we walked to the park. Walked around the park.
We walked around the park, but we're watching a lot of Parks and Recreation. That's our go-to show.
I call it Pawnee because
We've
Parks
already-
and Rec is too long to say.
You call it Pawnee. That's right. Parks and Rec, it's on Prime, so we have it covered for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So we'll make it. But yeah, I definitely don't pay attention to those little monthly subscriptions as much as you do. You pick up on those, and you want to tackle
Yeah.
all the ones we don't
I
use.
mean, you guys, if you're an adult and you live by yourself and you pay for everything, you don't notice all these little charges add up. Like you should list off all the things you pay for, like the monthly subscriptions. You have Apple
I
Music.
use a lot of them, though.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah. Apple Music's one. YouTube Premium. I didn't budge on that one.
Google storage.
That's
iCloud storage.
$3 a month.
Doesn't matter. It all adds up.
Okay.
So you have
Well,
two
yeah,
storage
it
options.
adds. The question is to how much.
You had Twitch Prime.
I got
and
rid
then
of
your video game
Twitch Prime is
one.
part of Prime, though.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that's why they call it Twitch Prime.
No, you paid extra for your Twitch subscription.
Oh, that's Turbo, but I canceled that.
I know. I'm just
Or
saying.
is it Turbo or Nitro? Luckily, when you're a Discord partner, you get Discord Nitro for free, so I didn't have to cancel that.
That's good. You just got to be a
I did not cancel YouTube Premium. No, I used.
subscriber or whatever.
Yeah. Well,
Or partner.
I got Twitch Turbo or whatever it's called because they bizarrely, even when you want to watch your own stream, which I pull it up on my phone so that I can read the chat, they'll play an ad on your own channel, even if you're just watching yourself, which then I couldn't see how the stream looked. And in the old days where I would always be like, how's the bandwidth? Is it loading okay? Is there lag? And there would be a 30-second ad that plays before the stream. So I literally paid for it just so that I wouldn't have that problem. But now with our current Wi-Fi situation, I almost never have that problem. So it would kind of didn't make sense to keep paying for it. But what was the other thing? Premium I use way too much.
Which one is that?
YouTube. No ads on YouTube.
Oh, I love that.
Plus, you get it too.
Yeah, I could use that over Apple Music any day. Because I can listen to audiobooks and music and watch videos. And they actually have free movies. Did you know that? YouTube has
There's
a
not
free...
a lot, but yeah, there are some free ones. They have
The Terminator, so they got some good stuff. I've actually never seen The Terminator, so I don't know if it's good.
No, I... honestly, I found the first Terminator a little bit overrated. I knew there was a lot of hype around it, and then I watched it one day, and I was like, all right. That was okay, I guess. But
did he say the line, though?
Which one?
I will be back.
I don't think that's in the first one. I think that's in the second one, which I haven't seen.
That doesn't make sense. Shouldn't he say it in the first one, and then he's back in the second?
In the first one, he's the bad guy. In the second one, I think he's the good guy. But I need to watch those movies. And speaking of... Amazon Prime Video. It's been interesting. We've canceled Hulu, which was primarily used for 90 Day Fiancé. And once we caught up on that.
Not just that, but like all of the TLC shows.
And didn't we find out that a lot of TLC is on YouTube anyway? Yeah,
there's just like 2-minute clips. So sometimes if we're bored, we'll watch them. It's really awful.
They put full episodes.
The addiction is real. Yeah, they had one episode. It was like the Pillow Talk.
Pillow Talk
version.
Episodes.
It's weird. We're watching people watch the show. Like, that's how bad it's gotten.
They are banking so hard on this 90 Day Fiancé stuff. They have so many branches of that show now.
Wait, okay, try to name all of them. There's like 5.
Oh, my God. Okay, so...
The original 90 Day Fiancé.
90 Day Fiancé, and then there's 90 Day Fiancé Happily Ever After. There's 90 Day Fiancé Before the 90 Days. 90 Day Fiancé What Now? 90 Day Fiancé The Other Way. And then 90 Day Fiancé... Pillow Talk. I think that's 6. It. There's 6 different shows, all revolving around 90 Day.
Based off of the first show.
Right.
There's so many.
And we caught up with the most recent episode, so that's when we were like, okay, Hulu's useless. We don't need that anymore.
Until the next season comes out.
Yeah, and then we'll have to find some weird YouTube channel that still has it. Or we can do the Hulu trial. I know,
it's really bad. When we go on YouTube, usually it's like the people who record their TVs, and then we're watching their recordings. There's always those, what is that called? Not hacking, but copy.
Piracy?
Yeah, pirating.
Pirating, that's not good. Yeah, but...
We shouldn't support that.
No. But... There was this movie on Prime Video, which takes a long time because its selection, I think, is objectively worse than both anyone else. Like, it's worse than Netflix. It's not
worse than Roku.
Well, yeah, Roku has like 8 movies with ads. And Netflix has the best selection.
Really?
I think so. Like, Netflix, we didn't use it a ton, but whenever I looked and browsed for a movie, I could usually find a pretty major popular one on Netflix. And... now that we don't have that and all we have is Prime Video, the selections are really bad. Remember some of the trailers for movies we saw on Prime Video? Oh my gosh.
It's all like the B and C and D movies.
There's some really crappy movies on there, but they're almost funny.
There's one movie. What was it? Cool Kids Don't Cry or something?
Cool Kids Don't Cry.
We watched the trailer and it was all in German. It does not signify anywhere that it's German until you watch the trailer.
You just start watching the trailer and then you're like, oh.
Wasn't there a scary one, too, that we tried watching? Or what was the other?
Scary one?
There was another really,
I don't remember a scary one, but terrible. I remember the Downsizing one with Matt Damon. Did you want to talk about that?
Yes.
Arthur, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it.
It's pronounced Arthur.
Arthur, thank you for the €99. Appreciate it.
Oh, see, he's British. Or maybe European.
What was that Downsizing movie about? Do you want to try to explain that?
I don't even know if I can. It's basically, I would say it's like a knockoff of Gulliver's Travels. Kind of. There's little people, not normal little people, but like tiny people, 5 inches tall. So basically in the future, they think the world's going to end. So how they're being proactive is by shrinking people and shrinking animals and like creating these utopias where everything is good and you wouldn't have to work anymore. It's basically like you just retire and live your life, and like $1,000 or $1 would be like $1,000 in this world because everything's so tiny. They can make a hamburger for like 5 cents versus $5.
Hamburger.
But how would you describe it?
I would describe it as a Black Mirror episode that needed a more competent writer. I will not say it was like the worst movie ever. They had no idea where they were going with it. Yeah. They didn't have a narrative and they didn't have a plot. They were just like, this cool, is interesting.
In the beginning.
Well, the production value was good. A lot of the effects were decent with the
except you kept complaining about like the physics of the water.
Yeah, they got some of that wrong. They kept.
How would you know though? You've never seen a tiny fountain in action. I'm just saying, like, water
behaves differently on smaller scales.
How would you know?
Because you can see it.
You've never seen a tiny fountain before.
Give me a what? Yeah, I have.
Thing
yeah,
right there. Oh, you need water?
I need a water bottle.
Yeah.
Here
Don't
comes the vibration.
Out.
Like I won't use much. Like just.
Oh really? I put my mouth on that.
Okay. So
you're gonna get water all over your keyboard.
Okay, hold on. You see how it formulates little bubbles like that?
Okay.
If you dropped this much water viscosity at like 1,000 times the size, it wouldn't form little bubbles like that. It would spread out until.
All right,
it was
but if you're
shallow.
5 inches, it would still look like a puddle. It wouldn't be like a circle in your hand.
If you were 5 inches, it would look like a giant warping.
Okay.
The viscosity would move differently.
What about the
surface tension?
Fountain?
The fountain should be behaving more like. What's a good
I don't
example?
think that's true.
You know, like a drinking fountain?
If the water pressure was slower, and depending on like how big the pipe was and how much water was able to be pushed through, I don't think it would be like squirting out like crazy.
No, Plus, you know, think of like a upward facing water fountain.
Upward facing dog.
No.
Downward dog.
No.
Sorry.
Like a park. You know, a little button. You go up to the fountain. You press the button. Yeah. Water comes out. That's how a fountain that's small should be behaving.
But that's not exactly the same as a normal water fountain, though.
I think it would be.
No, because a normal water fountain, water squirts in all direction, not just one.
That's a good example. You know how water behaved in Bug's Life? Have you ever seen that movie?
I have.
You know how they were able to grab like water droplets because they were small? It wouldn't be exactly to that scale because ants are smaller than...
Okay, how did they have like tiny glasses of wine then? That doesn't make sense.
I agree to a certain extent. It doesn't make sense.
Well, I guess it'd be like one water droplet and they just
that is
drink it.
One of many problems with the movie. But yes, it was something that you definitely got annoyed by when I kept complaining about it because I kept saying, like, they have this giant city, this luxurious, what did they call it? What was that?
Leisureland.
Leisureland. And they had these little fountains in the center that were spouting like full-size fountains, you know? When you look at a giant fountain in a park that sprays 30 feet in the air, it's kind of when it's spraying mist everywhere. It should be going.
It was a far point of view. It's not like they were right next to it, so you don't know how big it actually was in relation to everything.
Well, I assume if it's smaller scale next to the human levels, it's that tall. It should be like.
No, it's
like a
way
tiny
bigger
little
than
fountain.
that. They were because the human building was like way tall, like maybe a couple stories up. So it was probably the size of a normal fountain. Is a tapping sound.
I'd have to look at the shot again, but on top of just the practical effects, which some of which were good. You know the bit at the end where don't watch this movie. We're not spoiling it for you. The movie spoils
itself. Not recommending
itself.
this to anyone. Like I like Matt Damon as an actor, but this was one of his worst films. I think
this was not good, but the idea was there. I could tell there was an interesting because basically what they did was they were like, all right, what if we found the technology to shrink people? So how could we use that technology to make the world better? And that's what this movie was trying to tackle. It was like we could reduce our carbon footprint. We can reduce the amount of trash we make. If we just shrink ourselves down, that makes the world more bigger and we can make the most of our resources. But
it doesn't make sense to like do everyone though. Because if everyone was tiny, then literally everything would become our predator.
Yeah, they'd never addressed that in the whole movie, was the fact that, like, a cat could kill you now.
Yeah, exactly.
And
so if everyone was tiny...
discovers the island or discovers the village, and it just starts messing with it. Or like a bird.
Yeah, it
flies
just swoops down,
Little
grabs
crow
your
is
grandma.
like, oh, it's like, no, I think humanity, we kind of need our size. You can't just shrink us and then
there's
solve all
a
our
reason
problems.
we're this big.
Well,
so
there's
we
a
could ride
reason we're this
horses.
successful.
We wouldn't be able to ride horses anymore. We'd be tiny.
Unless you shrink all the horses.
Which they did.
So
I don't know how that makes sense, but
the other thing they never addressed is if you're worried about like covering the world in garbage and too much waste, and that's what they kept talking about, is that humans create too much garbage and trash and waste. Why don't you just shrink the garbage?
Yeah.
Like you
Drew
could just
made a good point there.
You could just take all the dumpsters and garbage and waste that humankind produces and shrink it down.
Would it still produce the same amount of like pollution and methane though? Or would it be like tiny methane?
With the movie's logic, no. It would shrinks down in all forms, both weight and physical size.
Bacteria doesn't shrink though, right? Or does everything inside your body shrink when they shrink your body? Because they had to like take out their teeth if they had fake teeth. And also shave all their hair.
To a certain extent, because one moment they're like, oh, we got to take all your molars and fillings out and then shave off all your hair. But then the next second they have tiny horses and they have tiny bicycles and they have entire cities that are constructed with normal things but just smaller. So how did they shrink all those things?
Yeah, I thought maybe like they built everything with tiny factories. But obviously they can't build tiny horses, so they had to shrink those.
Yeah.
And then maybe those horses just made more horses.
The idea was interesting, but the problem was from a character point of view and the plot point of view, nothing happened.
Yeah,
it starts
nothing
off
made
with,
sense.
Yeah, it started off with him and his wife deciding to downsize.
Yeah.
And then after the downsize process, he finds out his wife didn't do it.
Yeah.
And she backed out at the last second.
See, that was interesting to me. I like that,
right.
that sort of tension.
But that's like the first third of the movie. And then the second third is him working a crappy job as a mini guy.
Yeah, and they don't really explain why he's now poor, because he used to live in a mansion.
Well, he used to live in a mansion, but then he signed off on the divorce.
And I guess he didn't get much money.
I guess he lost money in that process somehow. You should have at least gotten half, which should have gotten him like a slightly smaller house, but not like a crappy apartment like he got. And this movie came out years ago. I think it came out like 2017 or something. Neil Patrick Harris was in it for some reason.
Well, whose character was he?
He just was the announcer. He was like, look at the expensive things you can buy.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And Laura Dern was advertising it with like, look at all my diamonds. I have so much jewelry here. It was clear that the screenwriter was like fascinated with the idea, but they had nowhere to go. So they were like, okay, now he's poor and his neighbor's too loud. And then he hangs out with his neighbor, and then his neighbor's cleaning lady who has a very like offensive accent.
Yeah.
She was a really like cliche, stereotypical
Asian
voice.
Vietnamese.
And it felt
It was
wrong.
really bad. I was like, did they need to take it this far?
It didn't sound accurate. It just sounded wrong.
Yeah.
It was so bad.
It was like an American person pretending to be Asian. She was Asian, but I don't think that accent was real.
No, it wasn't real at all. It almost sounded Southern. I was like, I don't know where they're going with this. And then at the end,
it reminded me of like a Full Metal Jacket kind of Asian.
Yeah. They fall in love, and then apparently off camera, the world ends. Yeah. So then they have to go to the original tiny village and go into a vault where they're going to live for 8,000 years. But they never showed why the world was ending. It made so little sense.
Yeah.
The idea was interesting, but it should have been like a 40-minute Black Mirror episode. I think you could have gotten just the first act. Mm-hmm. I think all you didn't need that thing with the neighbor. You didn't need that thing with the Asian gal.
With a weird foot.
Living in the shipping container with an apartment complex.
That was supposedly the ghetto.
Yeah, the ghetto. You didn't need all that. All you needed was like a 40-minute Black Mirror episode about the wife not doing it at the last minute. Mm-hmm. I think that's all you needed. If they would have just stuck to that, you could have had...
and just see what life was like for both of them after.
Right, like separating everything. I think that's all that you would have needed for it to be interesting. But... Well, the tapping sound is back. I wonder what's causing it. I don't know. Oh, well. Sorry. This movie's called Downsizing. We don't recommend it, but if you're bored...
Yeah, it's on...
And you want to Prime Video. If you want to be annoyed by something together or understand our frustration, feel free to give it a watch. Let us know what you think about it later.
Yeah, definitely. And sorry if you see me like swatting the flies.
We have a fly problem here.
They're not regular flies. Flies.
They're sweet potato flies.
They're fruit flies. And
fruit flies are the worst.
I left some carrots out, and I guess they went crazy and just like.
And they're not even fruit.
How do they invent themselves? Like, where do they come from?
How do they invent themselves? That's a real question.
Are they just flies that they shrink?
Fruit flies are the worst because they're fast. They're not like normal flies.
Tiny.
They're tiny, so they're harder to kill.
Flying
and they're
fries.
harder to see because they're way faster. And Louise just set a trap last night. And it's actually working pretty well. How does the trap work?
So I can teach you guys. It's real easy. Basically, you get a jar, and then you put some spoiled or like rotting fruit in it. So like a banana that got mushy. And then you put plastic wrap over the top and then tie it off with like a rubber band or a hair tie. So now you have like an enclosed jar with plastic over the top, and then you just poke like one or two couple holes, just big enough for them to get in, but not big enough for them to get out, if that makes sense.
Right.
I mean, I know it's the same size hole, but they're just not smart enough to like make their way out. They smell the fruit and it attracts them, and they crawl into the hole. And just like those bee traps that are like the cone shaped type, so they go in,
right,
and then they can't make their way out. Yeah, and then basically they just sit in there, and I guess it's kind of heaven for them because like
that's all they want. They don't have homes or apartments or anything.
That is their home now.
All they care about is fruit. So once they get in there, they're happy, I guess. But some of them haven't made it in there, dummies, and they need to. But bigger flies are easier because you can see them and they're slower and you can kill them. Where the fruit flies are the hardest thing to kill. Yeah. And there's a lot of them, but there's been a lot less. We really should
get one of those like electric fly zapper things.
We should, but that wouldn't work on the fruit fly. They're too small.
Really?
Oh, yeah. They're way too tiny. They're like the size of an ant, basically. Oh, yeah, it is rated R. There's a lot of language in Downsizing. And mostly language, weird. I think.
Well, in the first half, I didn't think it was that bad.
Oh, and nudity. In
my gosh.
Not in a sensual way, but like in a uncomfortable, awkward way.
Well, it was supposed to be like anatomical. Like, this is how we shrink them. We take off all their clothes.
They didn't need to show that.
Their heads.
They even did it in like a PowerPoint. They were like, so this is how we shrink people. Next slide, naked dude. And it's not even like an in shape dude.
Why does it matter?
I mean, it doesn't.
Regular
but I'm just saying,
get shrunk,
like,
not just buff dudes.
I don't know. I didn't need to see like a slightly overweight man's naked body. That was unnecessary. I don't need to see anyone's naked body, but that just didn't help. That's all. Yeah, I'm sick of these flies too. But
yeah,
these flies downsized. That was the other idea I had. Is they were like shrinking down. To have the big mansion and stuff. And then in the divorce, he lost the big house and he had to move to this crappy apartment for whatever reason. I was like, he should downsize again. They need to downsize a downsizing machine.
Wait, how?
And then shrink him again.
How would they downsize the downsizing machine? That doesn't make sense. You can't put a building inside a building.
But the downsizing machines they got in were huge.
Right, so you need an even bigger one.
Do you remember the testing machine at the very beginning?
Oh, I see.
It was like the size of a microwave.
How would you downsize the downsizing machine in the first place?
You'd only need one that could hold like one or two people.
Yeah, but I'm saying, how do you get it to that point?
Well, they started with one that was the size of the rat.
I see.
And then by the time Matt Damon did it, it was like 20, 30 people within one machine.
Well, why do they need to downsize the downsizing machine if they could just put the already small Matt Damon in there, downsize him again? So they don't need to make the machine smaller. They just need to put him in there again. Like twice.
Yeah, just put him back.
Twice baked.
Why is this so difficult? I just cured the movie. Anytime there's more trash.
More problems.
If there's a bunch of garbage, humans make a ton of garbage, downsize it. What if that gets bigger? Downsize that.
Is there a limit to how
They didn't go into the science specifically enough. Because you could just
keep doing it until you're the size of a single cell.
Like Ant-Man. Like Ant-Man talks about when you get so small, you get into the quantum realm, which is where you're smaller than like molecules. Atoms themselves, the space between spaces. That's where we'll put all our garbage in the quantum realm.
Hmm.
So, yeah, that movie didn't make any sense, but Elon would think about that. Point the machine at a mirror. That's a good idea.
Wait, how?
It's not shaking that aggressively. Like, this is tightened down.
Should we not?
I don't know. Just don't breathe and it won't vibrate as much.
Sorry,
I don't
guys.
know.
We'll need to do another test.
It's
test
very
round.
firm. Oh, well. I was going to ask you about what you think important in a house.
Good segue, Drew.
I don't know how to segue.
The most important thing for me in a house is that it's a tiny mansion, and then we also get shrunk.
Oh, okay. There you go.
To live in that mansion. We'll just live on top of this table, actually. This is probably like 3 acres when we're that size.
Would you want to be downsized if that tech was real?
No, because I feel like people would look down on me and I wouldn't be normal.
Literally.
Yeah, literally and figuratively.
I feel like they didn't talk about the risks involved. Like, I just want to see a kid.
Well, there was one.
Where?
The woman who was dying, like the Asian girl's roommate.
Right.
Her husband, his head exploded because they left like a gold tooth in his mouth or something, and they shrunk him.
Well, that's just poor maintenance on their end. I'm talking like the whole city's living fine and comfortable. Everyone's rich. And then like a kid gets in Leisure Town and just starts stepping on everybody.
Or even
or
like
a dog.
terrorist and just starts shooting up everything. Well, I guess it'd be really easy to hide if you're tiny. You just like dig a little hole.
Like there should be a lot of security risks involved with that.
Well, remember they were trying to bring up like the terrorism thing.
Like, what happens if ants show up?
Oh.
Ants are now huge.
Yeah, because you can't block off ants just because there's like a fence.
No, you could have any kind of termite or ant problem. Or
ants could just crawl over the wall.
They touched on disease a little bit, but disease should be like massively a huge problem because now bacteria is way bigger.
Vaccines for tiny people,
right?
Because that's like
tiny vaccinations.
I guess it'd be the same vaccines, but just like a tiny syringe.
But the bacteria now would be huge compared to what your body's used to.
Well, that's what I was wondering earlier. If you shrink a human, does that shrink all the bacteria? Because, we're filled with bacteria.
Yeah, it must. It has to. But I'm saying
because
new bacteria. We constantly have more bacteria coming in.
Yeah. Well, that bacteria would be the same size. And then it just goes on your body. Could you see bacteria at that point?
No, it wouldn't be visible, but I think it would make a bigger difference if suddenly all the bacteria
because your immune system is so tiny. It would be able to handle like one tiny bacteria, but it'd be really easy to kill you, honestly, if you're 5 inches.
True.
I mean, it must be a good movie if we keep talking about it.
Yeah, it was thought provoking, but that didn't make it good. It made you think a little bit. That's why I like Black Mirror. They're not all good, but they at least make me think a little bit. Except that one Metalhead, that one didn't make any. I was like,
was that the one with the museum at the end?
I thought that was the one with the robot.
Well, it was, but what happened? All I remember is the
robot just ran around and tried to kill the lady, and that was it. To me, that was.
And weren't there like a bunch of them too? There was like a graveyard full of the old broken down dogs or something.
Maybe. I can't remember now. They're all blurring together.
Yeah,
a film can be good if you have to rewatch it, but
that could also mean it's forgettable. So you're like, what happened again? Oh, I'll have to rewatch it just to remember.
I don't want to rewatch Downsizing. That movie was long.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 2 hours and 15 minutes, but it felt like 4 hours.
We had to watch it in like 3 or 4 different sittings.
Yeah, it took 3 days to watch it or something like that.
Yeah. It's so bad. It's strange how humans naturally are predisposed to finishing what we start. Even though it's not something we enjoy or necessarily benefit us, we just kept watching this really bad movie because we didn't want to leave it like unfinished in our minds. We didn't want to
be like, oh, I wonder how it ended.
Exactly.
Even if it was bad.
It was so dumb, but it's like we need to know the conclusion of it.
Exactly. We had to wrap it up somehow.
Yeah.
But let's say moving away from the movie topic. Yes. We've talked a lot about downsizing. Did you see this modified Model 3. What's this girl's name?
Yes.
It was really impressive. Simone.
Simone.
She's kind of a YouTuber, engineer.
She's like an
personality.
inventor.
She's really cool. And
she makes robots, I think.
Yeah, she makes crappy robots, as she would call them.
Mm-hmm.
But she basically bought a Model 3 and then sawed off the back half of the roof so that she could replace it with a bed of a truck.
It's like the opposite of a convertible. It's like a convertible.
Yeah.
No, it's basically a sedan as a truck.
Mm-hmm.
And in Australia, it's really common. They're called utes.
Utes?
Which is short for a utility truck, I'm pretty sure.
Why is it called a utility truck?
Because
it looks like the most
you can
impractical
put stuff
truck
in
ever.
The back, I guess. But it's basically a truck, but it's the size and shape of a car, like a sedan. And so it looks really dumb, in my opinion. It's got like a 3-foot bed and 2 doors.
I'm impressed with what she did.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it wasn't just her. She had Rich Rebuilds helping her and a bunch of other engineers and other YouTube creators that came forward to help her make it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very impressive that they were able to make a truck that looks as natural and as clean as the one she produced. I watched the making of it today. It was surprising. It was 30 minutes, and I was like,
wait, you watched the whole thing?
Yeah, I was like, man, this gets really in depth. It gets into the details. And surprisingly, it didn't. It was actually very montage and kind of just the basics, and they didn't really go into much detail about it.
Yeah, because they don't want people to replicate it.
Maybe, but I also think that they just wanted to make it mainstream, accessible, and they didn't want to pull a Rich Rebuilds. Rich Rebuilds goes into all the tiny little details, and he's like, "Oh, I got to disconnect this wire, and I have to reprogram this part of the. I got to pull this out, and I'll put a GoPro on his head." So is it more a
tutorial? Like, could you replicate one of his rebuilds if you were just watching it? Like, does he give
portions
that much
of it
to detail?
He never does like an entire build in one video. All of his videos are like, today we're going to be working on the bumper and how to take apart the inside of the trunk and put the wires back together for one part of the car. Mm-hmm. He never does like a whole build on one video. It's all the tiny aspects of the vehicle, which do take a lot of time to explain, go through the details, and give all the little bits and pieces. But yeah, I was hoping they were kind of going to do that with the pickup truck, because when I saw the pictures of it in the little commercial they made for it, I was like, whoa, that's really cool. I wonder if it supports supercharging, or does it still get software updates?
Isn't the charger in the back?
It still has a charger, but oftentimes Tesla, if a vehicle's marked as salvaged or it has some kind of damage or internal problems they know it's aware of, and I'm sure when you cut off the back of a Tesla, it's probably going to set off some warnings in the software that says like, maintenance issue, or go to a service center. So I just had all these questions like, does autopilot still work? Do all the cameras still work? And then
I bet Elon Musk will see it and be like, that's it, that's the new Tesla truck right there.
I don't think so. No,
well, he said it was going to be different than a regular truck,
and that looks like a regular truck.
No, that does not.
It looks like a ute.
Yeah, but that's not normal. That's not normal for America. We're not in Australia.
I think he's going to make it way more practical, because he said the pickup truck is going to be like functionality of an F-150, and that pickup is not an F-150.
What can you fit in the back? A couple logs of wood?
Basically, that's how they demoed it, like with some lumber. It's like not even a 4-foot wide bed, which is very small, and
it's a car.
It's a 2-seater now, and it's cool. It looks good and everything, but from a practical standpoint, it's not very useful. And I get that it's cool that they made the first one, that they're like, there wasn't a Tesla pickup truck, now there is one, but it's more on par with what's it called again? Ute. A ute.
Spelled U-T-E. Ute.
Yeah, I agree.
So do you like the style of it? Would you drive it?
No, I wouldn't buy that truck if that was what they released. It's interesting. It's impressive that they were able to modify it and make it look that good. But no, if that was the pickup, I would get the Model 3. Because, for one, they said the pickup would be a 6-seater. That's a 2.
They did?
Yeah. It's going to be a big truck.
It's just a long version of that.
Oh, God. I hope not.
It's like still
No, it'll
that
be
short.
a 4-door. I'm sure.
Still that short, but...
No.
How to be a 6-seater? 3 in the front, 3 in the back?
Have you ever seen an F-150?
Yeah, but there's a computer in the dash. That doesn't make sense.
No, you don't. Not between the passenger and the driver.
Well, it's kind of like
in an
on
F-150, there's a driver, passenger, and then in between them they have a center console with storage and cup holders.
I know that.
But you can fold it back up, and then there's a third seat in the middle. And
Doesn't
then
the Tesla have regular, like, gear shifter though?
No gears.
How do you?
It's just storage in the middle.
Oh.
All the gear changing is up here on the little sticks.
I don't know. I just feel like the little tablet will get like.
Not if it's big. Not if you got lots of room.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to see it.
It'll be,
See,
from what they've
it.
teased about it, it looks like a very big, kind of weird-looking, cyberpunk-looking truck.
Oh no, they're gonna make it look like is it the semi?
No, the semi looks good.
No, looks weird. It looks like a train.
It's the best-looking semi I've ever seen, but yeah, I think if you're just gonna have like a almost 4-foot wide bed and 2 seats, you'd probably get the same amount of functionality from just laying down the back row of a Model 3. And then when you open stuff in the trunk, you can lay it out. But then when you need to, you can fold the seats back up and have a 5-seater car, 4 doors. Whereas the pickup they made, 2-door, I wouldn't get it. But no, at the Mandarin Ranch job, I had to drive a F350.
You drove it. Is that a truck?
Yeah, that's
or is
like
that a tractor?
F-150 on steroids. I did have to drive a tractor.
I remember that.
But do you remember that truck I had to drive?
It was like only farmer boys understand or something.
It's a farmer boy thing. You wouldn't understand.
Farmer thing, yeah, exactly.
I used to send Louise Snapchats of me driving on the tractor.
Yeah,
I was such a redneck,
cute.
And I still am.
Not as much.
I got a sunburn on my neck yesterday
sorry.
from that sunbathing we did. But
when we went swimming.
Yeah, we went swimming the other day. But that F-350 was not fun to drive. It was huge. You had to climb into it. It was like a...
What's different?
It's just big. It's just like an F-150
like a normal
except
truck?
huge.
How? Is that a monster truck?
Well, it's a 6-seater, like we
Okay.
talked about. So it's got that little centerpiece that you can unfold and then have 3 people in the front, 3 people in the back. The
and
bed
then
is huge.
Has a normal bed?
Oh, yeah.
Or is it bigger?
It's probably like, I don't know, 12 feet long,
No.
5 feet wide. I don't know. It's huge. That truck is enormous.
Okay.
It has to haul the giant trailers we haul all the Mandarins on. So it's got a ton of horsepower, ton of torque. Obviously 4-wheel drive and all that. But you sit like a decent 4 feet off the ground in that thing.
Wow.
Almost. I don't know exactly, but it was
Sounds
tall.
like a monster truck.
Have you seen my grandma's truck? It's hilarious. My grandma actually drives this enormous truck.
Was it the beat up one?
No, the other one. The taller one. Grandpa has a beat up, smaller F-150, or I forget the brand, but Grandma bought this huge one. It's kind of like that, except a little bit taller. And for my job, I needed to drive that between ranches and between different properties that he maintained all the time. And it was the most stressful thing because you can't see how close you are to things. You're sitting up so high, you feel like you're driving a tank.
Yeah.
And it's got all this power.
People
you feel like you're
that,
going to break
though.
it.
Do you believe that people who drive trucks are compensating for something? Like
A lot of them are.
maybe their mom
wouldn't say
never
all of
told them that she loved him growing up. So it's like, I gotta make my mama proud.
Yeah, that's what they're compensating for.
Yeah.
No, there's other things too.
What?
Their weight.
So fat people.
No,
Fat people.
I don't think everyone who drives a truck is compensating because I used to drive a truck and I liked it a lot.
That was like the tiniest truck ever. It was
Ford
like
Ranger.
the truck was compensating for you.
That's right. I don't need a big truck. I got nothing to compensate for. The truck was the only way to dumb down my masculinity, basically.
Yeah. No,
Because
I,
I
liked
was
that truck.
so manly.
It was so bad. But we went to.
It stopped working.
We went to
Stu, the talking truck.
Star Wars. The first Star Wars we went to together in
Force
that
Awakens.
truck. Yeah, we went to Taco Bell. Good memories in that truck.
Yeah. We had a lot of good times in that truck. And then the transmission went out. It blew a head gasket.
And it could not go in reverse.
And then
right?
it stopped going in reverse. So, yeah, anytime I wanted to
You can
back
always
up.
go forward.
One time I got in a lot of trouble because at our old house, the driveway slopes down a lot. And one time, not thinking, when when it couldn't go backwards, I pulled down the driveway and then stopped and realized, oh crap, I can't back out of here. So we had to drive off the driveway down the hill because, it could go forward. So we had to go like across our yard into our neighbor's yard and then up his driveway to get out. And it almost lost traction during that and we got stuck.
Oh, did you film it? I'd love to see that.
I don't think so. I think we were too stressed out.
Because you were trying to explain it to me before how you did it, but I didn't know the layout of your house or your driveway yet.
You basically just imagine a big hill and you start going down the driveway and you realize.
And it's the one where Pickle used to like in front of the garage. Mm-hmm. So you went left?
Yeah, we went left and out the neighbor's driveway.
Yikes.
We had to ask him if he was okay with it.
Yeah, I thought you just started doing it.
Ford Ranger, those a good vehicle,
though. Ask for forgiveness,
it
not
technically,
for permission.
by definition and legally, sat 5 people.
What?
Mm-hmm.
There's only 2 seats in the front.
It had a middle seat that folded up, and one person. It was not comfortable, mind you. It was tight, but you could sit 3 in the front, and there were even 2 seats in the back that unfolded.
Why not 3 in the back and 2 in the front?
Because it was so narrow. The back seating area of the Ford Ranger was about this wide.
I remember it.
So
there was like trash all over it.
Yeah, that was what I called the dumpster. And
Just
the people in the back
wrappers.
didn't sit forward.
Sat sideways.
They sat facing each other.
Yeah.
So you would have 3 people facing outward, obviously, the driver, the middle seat, and the passenger. Mm-hmm. And then in the back, you had 2 people facing each other. Ford Ranger owners know this. This is a common design. Ranger. So you could get 5 people in that thing. We only did it like once, though. It was very rare.
Who was in it?
I think we got the whole family in it once because that truck used to be my dad's. And one time we got both my sisters and my mom. And then another time we were filming a Saturday short or something, and I think we got like a bunch of my friends filled into every seat. But yeah, I doubt Tesla's gonna make one of those. They're gonna want something big and bulky. And you're right, though. There are definitely people that do not need those big trucks that drive those big trucks. I've seen them. It's very noticeable. You'll see this like pristine, super there's no dirt, not a scratch on it, and you look inside and it's like this. I don't know. You can tell they're not a worker. You can tell a working truck from a non-working truck. It's very obvious.
But there's like a status to it, It's like, I'm a manly man. I drive a truck.
I agree. I get it a little bit.
Girl.
I got the girl.
No truck though.
No, I'm somewhat interested in the Tesla pickup truck, but no, I think the Model 3 is going to be still my dream car, my favorite of the lineup.
Someone kept asking why I'm making you wait.
She's not making me wait. We're deciding to wait as a couple. It's a joint decision. Louise has definitely presented the idea of why we should wait, but I agreed to it and complied to it. So, no.
Don't out me like that.
I'm trying to show them we're on the same team. We are.
Was that a high five to yourself?
I was trying to kill a fruit fly. Sorry.
Fruit
fly. Don't bother me.
You asked me a question earlier. Sorry, I kind of overpassed it.
Oh, sorry.
Or bypassed it.
No, it's all right.
You're asking what is my dream house.
Yeah, sorry.
So, I don't know. You go first. I'm not really sure what I want in a house.
I don't actually like big houses.
4 walls and a door.
I would like a big garage because I've seen a few YouTubers that set up their office in their garage. And
you want to film?
I want to film and
have that as your studio.
And have my studio be in if we're talking dream scenario here, I would say like a 3-car garage.
Wow.
Like you could have 2 cars in the background, and then the third space is just for work stuff. Like you have your desk, you have your film stuff, you have your camera, you have your lighting equipment, and you have a TV and a couch over here, and it's just like a studio.
A couch in the garage.
But just with tons of room. And you happen to be able to pull in cars to your office, which, in previous generation offices I've had, that wasn't an option. But to have the option to just roll up the garage door and make it an outdoor thing, that sounds dope.
Why 2 cars parked? Would we have 2 Teslas or just one? Or
this is a dream situation. I'm not describing near situation.
Continue the dream. Oh wait, someone said something funny. Juan said, "Drew, blink twice if Louise is holding you hostage." There you go, folks. You got it straight from here.
Right. No, in regards to space, we had a pretty spacious house growing up, and I didn't like it. I actually prefer
Really?
having the smaller houses.
Like 3,000 square feet?
If we're not talking about work area,
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with lots of space. That's great. Like I'll take a whole separate building from the house for a 3-car garage. But in regards
why
to the living space, because I like having the family more close together and not having to like shout or go upstairs and climb up through several different
It's
bedrooms
like it
just to
forces you
reach
guys
someone.
to be close.
It forces you to be like intimate, and it forces you to be like conscientious. So you can't just play music really, really loud. You have to be aware of others around you, which is
Wouldn't you want to be able to do that though?
Well, I have a workspace, so I can do it, but my kids can't.
They can't be annoying.
When I was a kid, we got to the point where my parents would just start texting me that dinner was ready and stuff, and I didn't like that. I was like, I wish.
Okay, that's just your parents being lazy, though. Walk upstairs.
I criticize them. I'll probably end up doing it someday when they're in high school. I'll be like, dinner.
Yeah, our house is way small now. So.
It'll be a Siri shortcut.
Yeah.
Text the kids dinner's ready. I'll just press a button on my phone, on my iOS 25 widgets bar.
I think I want to have at least a medium-sized house.
No, I would want bigger than the house we're in now. I'm not saying I want this size, but...
Yeah. I think a 3-2 would be perfect if you had your own office.
Yes.
Because we would have our bedroom and then like 2 kids' rooms.
Sure.
Because we're planning to have 8 kids, and there's going to be 4 kids in each room. 2 sets of bunk beds in each room.
She's joking people, by the way.
I'm choking people?
She's joking. We don't know how many kids we're going to have. That's not been decided.
Speaking, we're expecting a food baby.
She does this about every other day, by the way.
Sorry.
She loves the pregnant jokes.
Just when it's you and me.
And the rest of them.
There's like 15 of them here.
She always loves it. But you make that joke so much, I feel like one day you're going to mean it and I'm not going to believe you because of the
Then that's
the
okay.
constant
It's like, it'll be my own fault.
Then 9 months later, I'm like, wait, you're
Was
serious?
it the boy who cried pregnant instead of the boy who cried wolf?
Yes.
Whatever.
Twist ending, I'm actually pregnant.
Oh my goodness.
It throws everybody off. No one was anticipating it.
Pregnant.
She got drugnant.
Project Stardust. What's that?
It's a secret.
I'm not even let in on this secret.
Nah, you know what it is. They
You'll have to tell me later.
Yeah, you know. Don't worry.
There's so many cool things happening in our lives right now, and we can't share it.
Yes.
Sucks.
See, you already know what Stardust is. You're referencing it. But
Am I? No, that's not the only thing. Cool
there will
thing
be
that's
a
happening
whole...
in our life.
What can't you talk about that's happening in our lives?
I'm not gonna bring it out here.
Okay, fine. We're going to a wedding later this week.
Yeah, 3 days.
3 days. Yeah.
I
for
love weddings.
my cousin's wedding. Yeah.
Because free food. And that's pretty much it.
And we support our loved ones too.
Yeah. Also, we got to figure out what to get them. You guys put in the chat what you think we should get Drew's cousin for his wedding.
He's an Android guy, by the way.
It's his very first wedding. Hopefully last.
His very first. Yeah.
And what else can we say about him? He's a music teacher, right?
He uses a Moto X bamboo edition. You guys remember when I unboxed the Moto X Pure on my channel way back in the attic days? That was his phone. And I think he still has it.
We should get him a phone case or something.
There you go. Or some kind of Bluetooth headphones.
Ooh.
A Target gift card.
That's actually
perfect.
What we're gonna do.
What a genius idea.
We have a $15 gift card because we're cheap.
He's also on our YouTube premium family plan.
I guess he's family.
Which he pays for. But
$3 a month.
Yeah. When you get a lot of people paying you back for YouTube Premium Family, it ends up costing...
Who else is paying you?
My dad, technically.
No, he pays for Apple Music.
Yeah, but we took the... Who else is on it?
Emily.
That's right.
Dan and Wyatt.
And she's printed several of my labels.
So that pays.
Shipping labels. Well, I'd rather do that than not pay for a printer.
Well, you can go to the library. You know they have printers, right?
Going to the library is like
oh my
a process.
gosh, you big baby. I got to do everything around this household. I am the backbone of this household.
It's 10 cents.
Literally.
We could save those 10 cents and put it
10
towards
cents.
Netflix.
Okay. So
The iPod went back today.
we actually got a Target gift card for our wedding. And so we went to Target and just shopped around for anything we needed. And he saw that there were Netflix gift cards. So he's like, let's buy a Netflix subscription with our Target gift card.
Well, we couldn't find anything else. Anytime we looked
we don't have to spend it right now.
Yeah, I know.
We don't know when we'd need it.
But I don't go to Target often. That's just why, by the way, we saw the Tesla chargers. Is because we were in the Chico area. We spotted 14, I think.
14 you counted?
I've never seen that many before in one place. Crazy. Yeah. I'm looping it back to Tesla, sorry. But
okay.
We went to Target to see if we could get stuff with our gift card, and we weren't interested in anything.
We bought you a fan.
That was great.
He lives in his closet now.
That was fantastic. Sorry.
Fantastic. Did you show your
I don't
audience
know
your
how
new
to
fan?
stop the mic from clicking. I'm sorry. Like, I cannot screw
Just
any of these.
take your elbows off the table.
Okay. I cannot make this any more tight. Like, every part of it is screwed down all the way, and somehow it is still slightly vibrating.
Is it my side?
Weird.
Hello?
We should do a fan meetup.
With all our fans.
We just meet the fan. Whoa!
I like your fan, though, because it, clips on to your table.
It is nice. And it's very quiet. I thought it would be loud. You actually can't hear it when I'm live streaming. Like, listen.
It's pretty nice.
Can't hear it?
It's a different fan.
Oh, it's on right now.
Oh, is it?
No, I'm joking. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't waste power like that. It's a waste of money. Well, you've been, speaking of cars, you have to spend a lot of time on the road without air conditioning. How do you cope with it? What do you do to kind of pass the time when you're in the road?
So I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks lately.
Oh,
mostly
really?
about investing and self-motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first one I listened to was called The 4-Hour Work Week, which I thought was really interesting. It was 8 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
So it took me a week or so to listen to it all. But
what did they talk about?
He was talking about how you can pretty much automate your whole business and your whole life so that you can spend the rest of your time traveling and learning and bettering yourself and not focusing so much on active income, but focusing on passive income.
Right.
So that your money would work for you.
Automating your life. What does that look like?
So he doesn't let people email him or call him. He has managers who run his business for him. Mm-hmm. And then he also has something I didn't really agree with. It's virtual assistants from India. He kept talking about that.
Okay.
And how you should pay for someone else to do all your emails for you and call your wife to apologize if you messed up. He brought that up as a point. He's like,
you want an Indian guy to call your wife to apologize?
Not call, but email. Honey,
Okay.
I'm so sorry for doing this.
Oh.
This is Jarbit
Jarbit
talking and on behalf of your husband or something like that. I don't know. You guys would have to listen to it. It was an interesting listening or an interesting listen. But and then the next one that I listened to was called The Compound Effect.
Okay.
Which is...
Was that the one you were listening to by the pool?
No, that one is Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is the third one I'm listening to right now.
Uh-huh.
But it's so cool. YouTube has all these free audiobooks. You should really check them out.
Yeah, they have a... whatever I listened to with that guy, when you listened to him when we were together, he flip-flops a lot.
What?
Sometimes I didn't understand where it was going. He'd just be like, let me try to remember what he said. Something like... people let money control them, and you just work so hard because you need money, and you're stressed because you don't have money. Don't people need money, though? Yes, they do. If you don't work, you will not have money, and then you will struggle, and then you will fail. Oh, so you should work. Yes, but some people work so hard that they just enslave themselves to money. And I was like, where's this? What are you trying to say? There's a bad debate. It's you will regret no matter what. You will be wrong. I was like, where's
I think you were kind of listening to it out of context. You listened
Very
to
much.
5 minutes of it, and I was
did
already
listen
a
to a lot of it,
in.
and I kept going to think. He was like, don't things get more expensive over time? And then he replied with actually, if the country worked correctly, nothing would get more expensive. And I was like, wait, what are you talking about? You're saying inflation doesn't exist?
He's saying in a perfect, like a utopian society, it shouldn't.
Oh. Okay.
It's okay if you can't comprehend the end.
I'm trying to.
I don't understand all of it either, but I just figured it's better to try to listen to like more enlightened people than focus on like 90 Day Fiance, which we learned so much
I never chose to
from.
watch that, but
Yes, you
I
did.
will watch it with you, and I will
You
listen
did.
to that.
Are you serious?
I'm not.
You're putting all the blame on me.
No, I'm just saying it wasn't my idea, but I enjoy it.
Oh.
But I will also listen to the audiobook. Try to get
Yeah,
some
it's
wisdom
just-
out of it.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense if you're only listening like 10 minutes of it.
Yes.
Because that's a 5-hour, 6-hour audiobook.
Right. I was just hoping for some more explanation or elaboration on that because I was very confused.
I see.
In an ideal utopian society, you wouldn't need money. Everyone would just work to contribute to the collective whole, but that doesn't exist. Thank you for the
Well, that's a
super chat.
socialist society.
Communist.
Huh?
Like perfect
Both.
communism is a 100% income tax. There's no money, basically. You just work and you participate. But thank you for the super chat, Juan Prosser.
Juan
Here to prove he's better than John. Appreciate it.
Druise. He put both of our names together.
Druise.
It should be called Luandrew.
Lou.
Just Lou. Spelled L-E-W.
Yeah, that's a tech YouTuber. Maybe together we can become the next Lou from Unbox Therapy. Yeah, inflation a little bit is okay. It's a healthy economy. But should we wrap it up, or is there any other?
Inflation
What?
should be the same percentage as milk. 2%. Sign of good inflation.
There's a T-shirt idea right there.
How'd you say it?
I like
How'd
my
you phrase
milk how I like my inflation. 2%. Do you have any closing thoughts before we wrap up? Did you want to talk about your poo?
That's it for this week, folks.
No, you
Thanks
can't end it
much.
on that.
I don't want to keep talking about that.
Shampoo.
Why would you phrase it like that?
Sorry, because I thought you were going to pick it up. Sorry.
I'm embarrassed.
Shampoo.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next
It's a
one.
shampoo thing. We'll lead off with that one next episode.
Can we wrap this
I'm
up?
sorry. Okay, we'll see you guys on Thursday. Thank you for
Bye.
watching. Bye-bye. I'm sorry.